Hello, Sagittarius, and welcome to Indigo Rising Tarot. Thank you so much for joining me today, and I hope you're having a great day. This will be your weekly reading for the week of July 20th through the 26th. And during that time, we'll have a waning crescent moon. And a waning crescent is a time of surrender, rest, and healing. A good time to just let go and prepare for the new cycle ahead of us, which starts on the new moon on the 25th. And of course, that's a time for a fresh start, new beginnings, good time to start new projects, new work, new skills, make new decisions, that sort of thing. So anything new you have coming, great time to get that going. This will be an intuitive general reading for the energies that you may or may not encounter, Sagittarius. So of course, please take what resonates and leave what doesn't for someone else. And your overall message for this reading: confidence is your key to success. All right, let's see what the Sagittarius Collective has going on this week. As I'm shuffling, my weekly reminder this week is that you get out in nature. Take a walk, take a hike somewhere, take a beautiful, go find a beautiful place, a park or a view or something that's near you. Maybe even investigate a new place that you've never been, that you've maybe heard about. But just get out in nature and just really try to connect with nature, whether that be with the plants or the trees or the animals or whatever you can find. Just maybe study them for a little bit longer than you normally would, and just really take that time to connect and let go. I find that time to be very meditative and, kind of daydreamy. You can just really let your mind go in nature. So that is just my reminder for you this week, Sagittarius. Try to get out there in nature a little bit. All right, let's see what you guys have going on July 20th through the 26th, Sagittarius. Confidence is your key to success. All right, your overall present energy is the Lover's card. All right, let's see. Maybe Sagittarians have something going on in the way of love this week. So, this is, of course, the Lover's card is about being with a significant other, but it's also a card of duality. It's kind of, the duality within all of us. It's there, it's present, but it is a card about that as well. So keep that in mind. This could be, sometimes this is related to relationships, but sometimes it's just related to just your inner self and the duality within yourself. Your current situation is the King of Swords. So sitting in an energy of, this is like confident, but it's logic. This is a very logical card to me. If I had to name a character to this card, it would be like the Mr. Spock of the deck. That he's very logical and says exactly what he means, and the way the brain works here is just very, very logical. So something coming in with kind of knowledge, and this is like the knowledge of the intellect, right? Knowing what you know and speaking what you know. So very interesting there. What is at the root of your situation is kind of feeling like you against the world. So maybe you're working on this relationship in some manner, where you're speaking words and saying things that seem very, very logical, but you're just maybe not breaking through. You're not able to just make your point very clear, even though it feels like you're being very logical. And sometimes when we communicate, if you're feeling like you against the world, and especially in a relationship kind of thing where you're trying to throw logic at it, maybe you're the logical one, but your partner may not be. We tend to do an opposites attract thing, and I know that's the case with my husband and I, that I tend to be the very emotional, not that I'm non-logical, but he's definitely more on the Mr. Spock realm. Everything is very, very logic based, where I do tend to be way more emotional. So, of course, we both enter into each other's realms. And, the duality of a relationship is that you are eventually over time teaching each other about that other way of being. So, of course, over the years, I've become more logical and he's become more emotional. Like you teach each other how to be. So, but anyway, if you're feeling like you against the world, keep that in mind, that your communication styles may be different, or just your being styles. The way you are on the planet is just a little different, and that's how you learn. That is, you're learning through that mirror of the other person mirroring something back to you that you need to learn as well. In your recent past is, coming out of some sort of celebration. So you may have had a milestone, maybe For some of you, this could be just a new relationship. This could be, you're recently married and you're learning how to do these things, right? Like I said, you're learning how to understand the different ways that you communicate, as you go. I feel like partnerships like this, marriages, that sort of thing that's your biggest teacher. It's your biggest teacher in life because it's just the closest person to you. So if confidence is your key to success, be confident in the way that you communicate, but also be open to learning about your partner and how your partner communicates. But it looks like for some of you, this is a new relationship. For some of you, maybe you've just celebrated an anniversary, like a big important anniversary. And for some of you, it's just that, there's kind of maybe a renewal or something that you've just gone through that's maybe making you, think or want to change how you do things, right? There's always time for evaluation, like, hey, we're doing this, is everything working for you, and let's reevaluate if it's not. What's on your mind this week is the Empress. So very interesting. So for some of you, especially for the younger set, this is a card of pregnancy. So it could be that you are having these discussions. Maybe you're ready to have a baby and he's not, or vice versa. Maybe he's ready and you're not. So depending on where you sit in that situation, you have to work together. And that's just the way it is. But this is a card of pregnancy and create. This is the ultimate, of course, pregnancy is the ultimate in creativity, creating life together. But it's also a card of creating something that's not a baby, that is long term. So, and even if this applies to your marriage, it's just really putting in the time and the effort to make sure that everybody's getting what they need and what they want, and you're doing this for the long term. So this is of course going to mean sacrifice on everybody's part to get you there, but just make sure that you're making the right kind of sacrifice, and if just coming to those good happy mediums, right? That's really where you need to be. What is just ahead of you is the World card. So great, this is perfect balance, this is dreams coming true, this is you know just freedom, this is discovery, this can be perfection, tranquility. This is the end, this is the journey's end of the hero's journey of the fool. So this is after the fool has gone through all the trials and tribulations. You just end up at a place where you're like, ah, life is good. So that I love that this is the life is good, a card for you. It's coming for you this week. All right, let's continue on here. Your advice in this situation is, to think about the future and to think about these new thoughts and ideas that come with the future. You're moving towards the future in very, very calm waters. I'm also, for some of you, I'm seeing a little family here. I see a little one there with this pregnancy card. So, pay attention if that's you. Is it time for that? Is it time to think about moving forward in a family situation? For some of you it may be. Again, for some of you it's just about creating that long-term bond where you can move in calmness toward the future, towards new thoughts. So, but the advice is to just be open-minded about moving towards the future in a very calm manner. What is beyond your control this week is the Queen of Cups. So remember, like I was saying, that this King of Swords, this is being very, very logical. And this is kind of just the opposite. Like if these two were having, this would remind me of me and my husband having a conversation where he's being very logical and I'm being very emotional. So, but the Queen of Cups not only understands her own emotions, but can also look around at the emotions of the people in her kingdom, which would be, a partner as well. And understand, you just really have an understanding. It's having that empathy and understanding about why someone comes at something. So it looks like you're kind of trying to use both of those skills this week, which is good. It's good to bounce back and forth. And especially if your partner tends to be one or the other, more logical, more emotional, that you do need to kind of, take the time to learn how to not only accept that, but also incorporate that into your own being, where if you're more emotional, maybe you should try to be more logical occasionally, and vice versa. What is your secret desire? What you're trying to avoid is the King of Wands. So here, the King of Wands comes with passion and fire. And is it your secret desire to kind of add that to your life? Or are you trying to avoid that? I mean, I would kind of hope that you're trying to add that kind of fire. And like I said back here, some of you may be coming into this as a new relationship, newly married, but some of you may just be trying to renew something. If you've been together for years and years, you're trying to renew passion, and you're thinking about in what ways can you do that. Is that somehow in romance, and how do you speak to your partner? What is their so-called love language? How do you get to them on their level? But however you do it, confidence is your key to success. In your outcome position here is the Fool. So you've reached the end of this, whatever this journey is, and here you set off on a new path. This is about being faithful, that you want to leap off and start a new journey. And it looks like to me this is a journey about relationship. And I don't even feel like it's about a new relationship, although some of it could be. I feel like it's about being new in your relationship, if that makes sense. Kind of a renewal, again, a renewal of passion, a renewal of thinking about the logical way to move into the future, but also keeping those emotions in mind, and maybe trying to get rid of this one, against feeling like it's you against the world, but really having the persistence to break down those communication walls, and make sure that your partner understands where you're coming from, and you understand where they're coming from. What is hidden from you this week, Sagittarius, would be many choices. So your choices are limited. I guess you have a certain path that you need to go on, and you need to go ahead and follow that path. I think the path has already kind of been carved out for you. You know what work you need to do. The things that you need to do to get this new journey going. Is it in the way of passion? It very well could be. Let's get a final message here from the Soul Oracle deck. My decks are trying to mix up there. Final message here for Sagittarius as they're on this journey in their love life, which I think is awesome. I think there's a little work to be done, but again, those are the relationships that cause us the most work. That's where we learn the most about ourselves as well. So keep on learning, Sagittarius. All right, final word here from the Soul Oracle deck. Accept what is. Okay, not bad advice. Things are the way they are, and that's the way they are. Sometimes you just have to go, well, that's the way that is. And especially if it's the way another person is. Sometimes we are just who we are, right? And we're not here to change each other. We're definitely here to learn from each other, but sometimes just accepting who a person is, that's just who they are. All right, let's get a self-care wisdom card here. What sort of self-care does Sagittarius need to be focused on this week, July 20th through the 26th for Sagittarius? All right, feelings. Lovely card here. Healing begins with feeling. Be gentle with yourself and tender with your heart. So healing begins with feeling. So maybe, if you do happen to be the more logical one in your relationship, in the beyond your control was the Queen of Cups, which is that card of emotion. But your current situation is that you're looking at something pretty logically. And this card is saying that healing begins with feelings. So make sure you are putting and considering your feelings when it comes to everything that you're considering within this relationship. I'm trying to look at the numerology here to see if I missed anything. I think it's interesting that we have, the end of the major arcana here, like the ending, and then also we've got a new beginning here at the end. So it's almost like something is wrapping up here. Something is coming to some sort of conclusion, and this could just be, some change in your life that's happening within your relationship. Something has kind of concluded. Maybe you've come to a good resolution on something, and so now it's time to, start the new journey. I will say, I've said this to my husband over the years. It's like, when we fix this, whatever, let's say we're having a communication problem. It's like, the fun thing about fixing this communication problem is once we fix it, it's the next thing that pops up. And that's just how our relationship works. It's like you fix one thing and then it's like, oh, well, now we're going to look at this thing. So, and maybe that's just women. That could be, who knows, or some men. Anyway, Sagittarius, I wish you the best of luck with this. I feel like this is, a calm week. This isn't a big, huge, major deal. It's things that you're kind of working on, but do be confident in it, and make sure that you are healing through feeling also, and just making those good connections and maybe passionate connections with your partner. So I really appreciate your time here with me today. Again, I hope there was something in this reading that you can take away and use. If you're comfortable sharing, of course, drop me a message down below. Let me know what's going on in your relationship that's kind of a renewal, or some of you thinking about pregnancy, or some of you thinking about, putting the effort into this relationship long term so that something good comes of it. Anyway, if you're comfortable sharing, drop me a message. I do readings every week, so come back next week and we'll see if this energy continues or there might be something completely new here for you. Also, if you like my reading style, of course, Sagittarius, please like and subscribe to my channel. It really helps my channel, but most importantly, it'll help you find me next week. So thanks so much, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.